What time is it?
It's Sunday meeting! It's Sunday meeting!
Hi, everybody. Some of our friends from around the Northwest were just calling us together through that little clip. From wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I'm glad that you are here tuning in to be a part of this Sunday meeting. It is an expression of our life together as a church. And in these days when we can't be face to face, we're doing it together as in a new way online. It's not the same, but the love of God is holding us together, and our love for each other is holding us together in creative ways. So this meeting is all about sharing our hope and our connection and our life, even through a screen, for anybody who is looking for it. So I'm glad that you're here. Let's watch that little clip again, just in case you missed it. It's very, very quick, but it's good to see the faces of our friends in the midst of whatever they're doing, calling us together.
What time is it?
It's Sunday meeting! It's Sunday meeting!
This next hour or so that we're together is designed to help us open up our lives and our hearts to possibility. These days can end up feeling like they are blurring together as we shelter in place, or even if you are serving on the front lines. But simple rhythms and practices can help us stay close to God so that we're ready to receive the next miracle of what God is doing in us and in the world around us. So this meeting is a practice of staying close to God and each other. And so I hope that you are surprised, even by participating, that God will meet you tonight in our time together. Even when you don't feel like something is happening, it probably is. Tonight we're together to develop our imagination and our trust. So thanks for being here, because we can't see each other face to face. We're using our sign-in on the online meeting webpage as our welcome list. So go to circleofhope.net/online meeting and sign in right now and add your name so that we can see you. We want you to be counted in, because we're building a movement together, even under quarantine. And if we don't know you yet, please share your contact information. We want to develop other ways to relate. This meeting is so much more than a show or even a lesson. It is live and it's alive with the Spirit of God drawing us together. So even if this is your first time here, you are a part of that. So I hope that you will participate. If you're watching it through YouTube, there is a live stream option or a live chat option. You might have to turn that feature on. So look for that underneath this video. There will be helpful links going in that dialogue the whole time. We have some moderators, Bethany, Robbie, Andrea, who are going to be there providing some helpful links. And it's just a way that we're maintaining a dialogue of love, because that's part of what makes us who we are. If you want to be in a face-to-face breakout group for talking back after this meeting, we invite you to do that. We want to have that face-to-face time with each other. That link is going to be in that chat or on the online meeting web page for you. You can just click onto it right after this meeting is over, and you'll be included in a group, with a smaller group with folks to talk with. If that chat is distracting to you, feel free to turn it off. Do whatever you need to do to be as present as you can for this meeting. There are a lot of possible distractions online, of course, and we're trying to be as present as we can, because we are asking God to meet us right now and for us to share this experience together. If you are a kid who's watching, I hope you got to see that video that Becca made for us at the beginning. There is an opportunity to go back and watch it when this meeting is over, because the recording is going to be online. And the Bergman family is going to get us started with a song that you're going to love. So let's all sing with them as they help us to get into our bodies here at the beginning of this meeting.
Hi everybody, I'd like to teach you a song and how to dance to that song. It's a fun song, so I don't think anyone's going to want to sit on the couch for this one. You got to stand on up, and you'll be glad that you did. You want to stand up, make sure that you have plenty of room, because we're going to show you some moves. Now, the first move is, it goes along with the words, if you have faith like the seed of a mustard. And a mustard seed is very small. So, if you have faith like the seed of a mustard, make yourself small. That's what the Lord has said. And so you can praise the Lord, that's what the Lord has said. If you have faith like the seed of a mustard, that's what the Lord had said. You tell that mountain. You tell that mountain. Move away.
Move 1,
2, 3. Move away. 1, 2, 3. And then we do it again. You tell that mountain. You tell that mountain. Move away. 1, 2, 3. Move away. 2, 3. And the mountain would move away. And this is what it looks like for a mountain to move away. The mountain would move away, move away. The mountain will move away, will move away, will move away.
and the mountain will move away.
We'll do that whole thing a couple of times, and then we'll do it also in Spanish as well. The moves are going to be the same, and just follow along with our dance captains right here. Ready? If you have faith like the seed of a mustard, that's what the Lord has said. If you have faith like the seed of a mustard, that's what the Lord has said. You tell that mountain, you tell that mountain, move away, move away. You tell that mountain, you tell that mountain, move away, move away. And the mountain will move away, move away, move away. And the mountain will move away, move away, move away. And the mountain will move away. If you have faith like the seed of a mustard, that's what the Lord has said. If you have faith
Like the seed of a mustard. That's what the Lord has said.
tell that mountain, you tell that mountain, move away, move away. You tell that mountain, you tell that mountain, move away, move away. And the mountain will move away, move away, move away. And the mountain will move away, move away, move away. The mountain will move away. Si tuvieras fe como un grano de mostaza, eso nos dice el Señor. Si tuvieras fe como un grano de mostaza, eso nos dice el Señor. Tú le dirías a la montaña, muévete, muévete. Tú le dirías a la montaña, muévete, muévete. La montaña se moverá, se moverá, se moverá. La montaña se moverá, se moverá, se moverá. La montaña se moverá. Yay!
Cora said yay.
Those words are Jesus' words to his disciples. And we don't have to have a lot of faith for things to move. But sometimes it can be hard to believe that, especially when we want big things to happen. Doing simple, small practices can keep us close to God. And it may not feel like enough when we want big things to happen, but it's an important place to start, because Those simple, small practices can make room for something to happen in us. Throughout this meeting tonight, we are going to watch a process that's happening over time. The point is to consider the patience and the trust that get worked out in our process with God. Erica is an artist who made this video for us of painting a watercolor. And her painting is beautiful, but it's not so much about her painting as it is about the considering what it takes to start something and the process of bringing it to completion. Again, the simple, humble work of our practices with God make room for something new to be revealed. We participate in that revelation when we stay in the process with God. We're making something. We're participating in what is possible. If you don't yet know how to connect with God, we have some ideas that are to help that we're going to practice tonight in this meeting. But first, let's watch the first part of this video, hopefully to inspire us to the simple spiritual work that we can all do to bring resurrection into our own lives, even through our own bodies. So here's Erica. Let's start with the faith that we have and sing that song again.
If you have faith like the seed of a mustard, that's what the Lord has said. If you have faith like the seed of a mustard, that's what the Lord has said. Tell that mountain, move away, move away. Tell that mountain, you tell that mountain, move away, move away. And the mountain will move away, move away, move away. And the mountain will move away, move away, move away. And the mountain will move away. Si tuvieras fe como un grano de mostaza, eso nos dice el Señor. Si tuvieras fe como un grano de mostaza, eso nos dice el Señor. Tú le dirías a la montaña, muévete, muévete. Tú le dirías a la montaña, muévete, muévete. Y la montaña se moverá, se moverá, se moverá. Y la montaña se moverá, se moverá, se moverá. Y la montaña se moverá. If you have faith like the seed of a mustard, that's what the Lord has said. If you have faith like the seed of a mustard, that's what the Lord has said. Tell that mountain, you tell that mountain, move away, move away. You tell that mountain, you tell that mountain, move away. away, move away, move away, and the mountain move away, move away, move away, and the mountain move away.
Yay, springtime!
Tonight we're going to talk more about faith and doubt and look to the story of Thomas. So Johnny and Ben are going to get us started with that, and Rachel will help us with applying it. Johnny and Ben, why don't you get us into the story?
You know what I learned recently? Before this time started, I didn't really know how to wash my hands. Now this sounds bad because I always instruct my children to wash their hands really well, but now I'm learning the importance of it. And the reason that I am is because germs are no longer an abstraction to me. Because we're in a pandemic, right? Obviously, they have consequences and really deadly consequences too. And now I know they're real, and I actually have to wash my hands. And I sing the whole song that we have at home for 20 seconds to make sure that my hands are clean. And I don't know the songs too well, so it even goes longer than 20 seconds. So that even is more cleanliness, you know? And this experience of germs that I am having shows me that the intimacy, a relationship, a consequential reality trumps data. Because I knew germs were real. I didn't think they weren't. I just thought they were real in my head. They weren't real in my body. Does that make sense? And that's the main part you want germs to be real in, because that's what they affect. Does that make sense? So I feel it now, right? I don't just know it.
I would like germs to not be real in my body. Well, I don't know. They're probably good germs too. But I definitely understand that it gets visceral, you know, it gets into your viscera on your insides. You feel it on your insides. There's even an element of fear that makes the germs more real in a pandemic, because this is affecting all of us, and our lives are being so seriously impacted by it that it's impossible to be on the edge about germs. You can't just be on the edge just wondering if you're going to get into the germ thing or not. It's happening to you. It's a reality that is crashing down upon all of us. But that's usually not how everything works. A lot of stuff, especially, I don't know, maybe even some of our medical conditions seem like something that we can control. We have this sense that we can make a decision and like get into it. And it takes a lot to get off of that edge, I think. So this whole pandemic might, at the very least, is teaching us that we're not in control. And it's kind of trite for me even to say that at this point, like 50 days in, you know that. But I don't know if we'll learn. And I hope that we're learning, kind of like Thomas was in John, where the Gospel of John, which we're going to be talking about, he's kind of learning what it takes to get off the edge. I think we also know that feeling of kind of feeling stuck, because we don't have a guarantee. You'll see in the story that Johnny's going to tell that Thomas kind of wants the data, but he gets more than that. And it's not really the data that changes his mind. It's the relationship that he has with Jesus. And we want that relationship before we get into it. Do you feel me on that? You know, we want to know what it's going to be like before we do it. And this is kind of a impossible problem of being in the present and not the future at the same time. It's tough.
You know what I respect, and I'm going to tell you the story in a second. Thomas asks for what he needs. Let's read through it, and I want to talk more about even the challenges with that ask. I'm going to read right from the Bible. This is John 20, 24 to 29. Thomas, the one called Didymus, one of the 12, wasn't with the disciples when Jesus came. The other disciples told him, "We've seen the Lord." But he replied, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, put my finger in the wounds left by the nails, and put my hand into his side, I won't believe." After 8 days, his disciples were again in a house, and Thomas was with them. And even though the doors were locked, Jesus entered and stood among them. He said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Put your hand into my side. No more disbelief. Believe." Thomas responded to Jesus, "My Lord and my God." Jesus replied, "Do you believe because you have seen me? Happy are those who don't see and yet believe." He asks, he receives this kind of what he's looking for. He isn't just looking for data. He's looking for an experience, a connection, something intimate. And there's a real fear in asking for what you need because you might not receive it. Jesus, earlier on in the Gospels, talks about how a parent would gladly give to their child whatever they ask for. But I know even in my own woundedness that that's not always true, that I did ask and I didn't receive. And so I'm trying to lean into the idea and the truth that my heavenly parent will offer me what I've asked for, even though that hasn't been my earthly experience. So I actually think, go ahead, Ben.
Well, I was going to jump in there, going back to what I was saying, kind of feeling like you're on the edge and you want this guarantee, but the only guarantee you've gotten so far is a lot of disappointment,
Yeah. And so,
yeah.
I respect Thomas here. I think Thomas is being bold and should be honored for the ask and not demeaned for needing it. What do you say that? What do you think?
Yes, definitely. Trying to, uplift him and the experience that he's having with Jesus, because he's so bold as to be there on the edge, not knowing what's going to happen and claiming what he needs. He says, "I got to see the nails in his hands. I got to see the wound in his side." And then Jesus comes and delivers what Thomas needs. They're making a connection there. And Rachel's going to talk about that more soon. But it wasn't just like, oh, Thomas changed his mind. I guess Jesus is alive. I was wrong. We could reduce it because the Bible tells the story so minimally, because it's just an ancient text, doesn't have a ton of detail. We don't know what's going on in Thomas's mind, but we do know what's going on in ours. And that's why we bring our own experience to the Bible. We're not like putting something in there that we shouldn't be putting it in when we think, oh yeah, it's hard to love. It's hard to go for anything, to say this is what I need because I've been disappointed. You know what it's like to be in Thomas's position, and you bring that right here to the Gospel of John. You bring yourself to it, and Jesus meets you there in it. When you ask Jesus right now what it is that you need. Jesus said, "Do you believe because you see me? Happy are those who don't see and yet believe." It's like John, he's there telling the story, and he turns directly to the camera in this moment. Happy are those who have believed and not seen. Jesus is trying to comfort those who believe without seeing, because that's who John is writing the book for.
Exactly.
Those who are receiving this message, Thomas and the other disciples, and you. This is you. This is us. Jesus isn't slamming Thomas for his doubt. He's actually setting us up to receive Thomas's witness way down the line.
Yeah, Thomas's witness will bleed to forward generations, will impact people in the future. Because the people reading it are receiving it in a new way. No, I actually touched him. I have the connection with him. The intimacy that's formed here ripples into the future. And I'm still holding on to it. That Thomas felt Jesus's wounds emboldens my faith. It's so easy to dunk on Thomas. When I say dunk, what I mean? Just make fun of him, and I like to do this at times too, so I can understand the impulse. I love when I see someone's error, like an error in their argument, and I know I'm going to wind up like I'm Dr. J and just dunk on him. I feel that feels exciting to me. And to be honest, there's such limited utility in doing that. I'm not sure why I revel in it so much, unless you're really trying to embarrass someone, which sometimes a Boston Celtic must be embarrassed. So I understand the idea, but there's no love in dunking on someone. There's no honor in standing alone, being right, having correct thinking, having the data on your side, having all the right answers, right? We're trying to have a movement here, and the movement is built by love, not just by right thinking. Right thinking doesn't save us. Love saves us. Jesus saves us. That's what Jesus is bringing to the table. You don't need to be all sorted out to have an intimate connection. You can ask for what you need. You can relate to God that way. And I think, you know, that if all your thoughts aren't sorted anyway, you might have a softer heart to receive new ones. And here in Circle of Hope, your connection matters more than your thoughts. Your relationship with us, our dialogue holds us together. That's what we say, right? That's what I like to say anyway. Our dialogue keeps us connected.
Yeah, and it protects our gravity. It pulls people in like Jesus pulls Thomas in and says, yes, I see you. I see you for who you are. I see you in your need. I see you not knowing what to do and being confused. And Jesus is saying all those things to you too. It's not just about getting it all straight. It's about making that connection and even sharing your confusion. I can't believe it. You know, you could think of this as Thomas being like, I'm not going to believe unless I see the deeds. You know what I'm saying? That's my demand. Deal with it, God. You know, Thomas isn't like that. I'm much more, I mean, of course, I don't know what he was actually like, but I imagine him being much more like, guys, he's talking to the disciples, guys, I can't do it. I just can't believe it unless I see it. And don't you feel him on that? Don't you feel him on that? Because if your friend of 3 years or more just, you know, dies and then comes back, even though he was talking about it a bunch, it's not something easy. That you know, that feeling of like being stuck there on the edge again, needing a guarantee. I gotta see it. If you can own that, if you can have a relationship with Jesus in that moment, your own moment right now, when you're not quite sure you can make the leap or take a risk for anything or go for it because you can't be sure, yeah, Jesus is there with you, drawing you in, staying connected to you too. There's something better than being sure. There's something better than having it all worked out, and it's connection with Jesus. Go for that. That's all we've got for now. Rachel will be here later.
Yeah, let's pause for just a minute to try to have our own moment with God, to sing, to pray, to breathe. Before we do that, we're actually going to check back in with Erica in her process of painting to see where she's at. Thomas's witness can help us stay in our practices, asking for what we need. And with Erica's painting, you can see she's staying with it. It's taking shape. It's becoming clearer. You might even be able to hear the sound of the patter of the rain outside the window or the traffic that's passing by. The process is slow, but something is taking shape. Something is happening. So let's watch that together.
On the way to lengthening my will to meet you. Face me, Lord Jesus. On my way to turning a true face. God in your glory, reach into our madness. Help me believe that you will make me whole. Meet me, Lord Jesus, on the way to lengthening my will to meet you. Face me, Lord Jesus, on my way to turning a true face.
Lead us, Lord Jesus. That song helped us to ask for what we need. And Brandy is going to lead us in a way to participate in receiving what we need through a breath prayer. Brandy, lead us through.
Welcome. Breath prayer is something that's been practiced for millennia throughout a lot of churches. It's a form of prayer that includes deep breathing. It's often called prayer of the heart. I love using breath prayer to be present and connected with God. I almost always feel more calm and peaceful afterwards, and sometimes I wish I had done it longer. For me, it's about finding the space to sit with God and let Him listen to my heart and to fill it up with His love. If you're willing, I would love for you to join me in a few moments using this phrase for our breath prayer. Inhale, teach me to see. Exhale, the resurrection around me. But first, let's find a comfortable position with the spine long, imagining our hearts are open. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes and just listen to your breath. I'm going to repeat this phrase for you a few times and then give you some time in silence to breathe with the prayer. You can say the prayer out loud or in silence, but please just take your time and take long, deep breaths. Inhale, teach me to see. Exhale, the resurrection around me. Inhale, teach me to see. Exhale, the resurrection around me.
Thank you, Brandy. We're going to keep coming back to that breath prayer. There's an invitation from Jesus in that Thomas story. So let's go back to it now. My favorite part is that Thomas had the courage to admit the limitations that he was feeling and ask for what he needed, like Julie was saying. He was saying he couldn't do it on his own. He needed help, like all of us do. I can certainly relate to that. Thomas wanted to believe, he wanted to have faith, he wanted to have hope, but he couldn't get there on his own. He needed God to help him. He needed God to help him connect, and I think we do too. Jesus honors that confession of limitation, as Jesus always does. And Jesus invites him to connect personally and directly. Jesus doesn't shame him for not having enough faith or something like that. Jesus does something just as vulnerable in response. He says, "Here, touch my wounds. Connect with me in the tender parts that aren't even quite healed yet." We've been watching Erica's beautiful painting process. And so I want to show you a painting that helps me understand Jesus's invitation to me in this story. It's by one of my Italian favorites, Michelangelo Caravaggio. And I saw in the chat that Rand mentioned it earlier. I shouldn't be surprised. Rand is my friend, and he's our Sunday meeting coordinator at South Broad. So we didn't plan that, but we're on the same wavelength. Anyway, Luke, can you show that painting for us in the chat? Luke, by the way, is our communications manager, and he does so much to make this whole meeting happen every week. He's awesome. Anyway, my favorite part of this painting, if you guys can see it now, my favorite part is Jesus's hand right there on Thomas's wrist, because I'm imagining with Caravaggio that Jesus actually reached out and took Thomas's hand and guided it to his wounds. Jesus reached out and helped him touch the wound that showed Thomas that the impossible is possible and that death is not the final word. Jesus can help us see the miracle of resurrection now too, by touching his wounds and asking for the help we need to do that. Touching Jesus's wounds looks like knowing our own wounds instead of denying them, and that's hard. It also looks like diving into the wounds of the world instead of trying to stay on some victorious imperialist position. I think Jesus is making it clear here that his followers are made to connect. We don't need to maintain distance from suffering, because that would be distance from Jesus. We're invited to come close, to relate, and to receive assurance that God is here with us. I think what that looks for us right now is diving into problems and asking for God's help there. We can dive in without needing to have all the answers or any guarantee of how things are going to work out. We don't need evidence of success, like Johnny was saying. We just need willingness to show up and to relate and to ask our questions and to ask for God's help. But this is so counterintuitive, especially for those of us who have had our vulnerability trampled on in the past. But taking the risk to relate to God like that is where the connection is. Faith grows from seeking this connection. I could see it yesterday in our people getting baptized, that they had made that connection. They had taken that risk. I can see it in the look of surprise and recognition on Thomas's face in that painting. That shocking realization that everything's going to be okay, more than okay, even in the midst of what is still being healed. Faith grows by asking for God's help, by being real with God in the present moment. And that's why we're trying these breath prayers with Brandy today and every day in this season. You know, that's why we are opening our covenant to new members all the time. And you can be part of that this week on our Covenant blog. That's why we meet in cells throughout the week and actually share our lives with each other, because we're showing up to relate, to be vulnerable, even though it's hard, to touch those wounds. Thomas is showing us how to do this in his vulnerability, and Jesus is helping him make the connection to his own body. And we are part of that body now, live, real, live, tangible. Faith is a process of seeking this connection, and we can trust God to complete it. So let's talk about it now a little bit more in the chat. What is this process of faith like for you? Do you feel like you're able to ask for God's help in the moment when you need it? Or do you feel like you need to muster it all up on your own? Let's talk about it. And Johnny and Ben, feel free to jump in here.
Rach, somebody was answering that question even early on in this meeting. Haisa was saying that there's a fear in asking for what you need because you might not receive it. She was really vibing with that. I think lots of us do. Can you say more? Any of you? Maybe Ben, can you talk a little bit about what we do to get through that fear?
I think that it starts with, and maybe ends with confessing it or just naming it. Something, I think that's what Thomas is doing here. He's having his real feeling, and Jesus comes alongside of him and joins him in it and does something really intimate and amazing, something unexpected. So, and in my experience of kind of inviting Jesus alongside of me next to that fear, it's really again, Johnny said at the beginning that it's not the data. We don't necessarily even need, in my experience, I haven't needed to hear like Jesus whispering in my ear, like it's going to be all right. Although that kind of comforting word from Jesus, the mother, would be good. But really, it's just the presence of Jesus next to me does something to dissolve the fear, and the practice of bringing those emotions to the forefront of my mind and heart in the presence of Jesus, usually through breath prayer, is when just something shifts in me.
That's good. This painting, people are really moved by the painting. It does evoke like a visceral reaction. People are commenting on how intense it is, how the vulnerability of the soft skin that breaks and bleeds is moving. And people relate to that. We feel that kind of tenderness ourselves in our own wounds. Johnny or Rachel, could you say more about how we keep working with the tenderness of our own wounds while we're trying to trust Jesus?
My wounds help me know where I need to trust Jesus. Like I was sharing a little earlier, it's hard for me to ask a parent for something because so much of that love was missing in my childhood, especially from my dad. And so Jesus keeps talking about Heavenly Father. And so there's the wound again. Bethany was calling it a scab, right? It's scabbed over a little bit. We're learning from our scar. And now I know, this is what my prayer really needs to be. I need to have faith that I'll be provided for, despite my experience of not being provided for. That's the sort of woundedness that can illuminate where we need to go and how we need to move, and even what stories I need to share, because the wounds that I have might very well be in common with the people that I'm relating to as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think relating more to each other is probably a helpful piece here. Rod was saying many of us are never going to be great askers. Maybe we should stick with people who have more of that boldness. And then Becca says it's easier for me to ask God for things than it is to ask people. That that feels so true to me, and a reason why we form community and do this together as a body, because we're trying to be those kind of people that can ask each other, hey, how are you doing? You know, when we're trying to do it alone, we need each other to pop in on us and say, do you need some help? You're doing that thing again, where you're isolating or whatever it is. So we can kind of help each other ask for help too.
Yeah, well, or we can just let someone else ask for us. Like Tracy said earlier in the chat, you know, in the Caravaggio painting, all the other disciples are looking intently over Thomas's shoulder, whispering, "Thank God he asked." You know, that like we have the sense, we have to overcome everything all the time. Like when I was talking about being stuck on the edge, and you just have to like figure out how to do the hard thing. And I think our wounding often is so deep and kind of integral to who we are that to try to imagine that kind of transformation is just such a big leap that it could shut us down too. So getting in community allows us to lean, and not like as some kind of crutch, but like by design, on each other and the gifts that the body has. Not everyone is as bold as Thomas. That's okay. That's how Jesus made it. Us together doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. There's more to talk about, so I hope you'll stick around for a breakout group after the meeting. But let's check back in on Erica and this final stage of the painting process. Let's see what's being revealed.
Lord, give us peace and understanding in the moments that we struggle to find it during stay-at-home orders. Your mercy instead of my battle, your love instead of my fight. And when I'm broken and sore, your grace keeps me more. I'll lay down my weapons tonight. Thank you, peace, tender peace. Heal all my wounds, close my eyes, lift my poor, tired head, and you keep me warm. When the struggle is cold, sweet tender peace, you're the healer of souls. Sometimes stillness seems so distant, and trouble is all that I know. But you're offering your cup, your wine fills me up. I
it takes some practice to stay with peace and to let God meet us there. So Brandy's going to help us keep practicing the breath prayer that we can take with us throughout this week.
So let's just take one more moment and get our spine long and close our eyes if you feel comfortable. Just inhale, teach me to see. Exhale, the resurrection around me. Inhale, teach me to see. Exhale, the resurrection around me.
Thank you, Brandy. When these days are dark, let's keep breathing, keep receiving the peace of Christ. And let's sing now as Raleigh and Leah lead us for God to light the way.
Show me the way, show me the way, and I will follow it. Show me the way, and show me the way, and I will follow it. Show me the way, and light the way to walk behind. alone and lost in scarcity, but give and live abundantly. Always love, always free. Show me the way and I will follow. Show me the way of life. Show me the way and I will follow. Show me the way of life. Like the way to walk upon. Like the way to follow along. Like the way to walk upon. Like the way to follow along. Show me the way and I will follow. Show me the way of life. Show me the way and I will follow. Show me the way of life.
This way that we're walking along is the way of Jesus, and it's about a whole life together, not just a meeting. And Aubrey is here to talk more about what that whole life looks like together, even in the midst of a pandemic, and other ways that you can connect and be a part of it.
Thanks, Julie. It's nice to be here with you all. As you've heard many times, as this has been going on, this is live. And so I spent some of the time not in this back bedroom, but actually out in the living room with my family watching. And Nat and I were talking about the artwork behind Ben. And the boys started thinking about how that reminded them of the box artwork we had done at Tulpehocken. And I love how, like, when we have our meetings together and we're able to meet in person, we create this communal artwork. And now that we can't meet in person, we are still creating a community together. And that requires that interweaving, just like what you see behind Ben. We want to purposefully interweave our lives. And so I'm going to talk with you about opportunities to do that. One of them is the sign-in. So if you haven't signed in yet, this is the way that we can welcome you. We want to welcome you. We want to know that you were here. So please go to Circle of Hope where the online meeting is and fill in the sign-in sheet. Another way that you can join that interweaving, like that artwork behind Ben, is through our breakout groups that are happening afterwards. So if you'd like to do a breakout group, in the past, we had a different way of doing this. This is the first week this week that we are using Zoom. And all that you need to do is to click on the link that you will see in that chat thread. So we're going to put the link into the chat thread and you can click there. You should also be able to find the link on our online meeting page. So all you need to do is use that Zoom link, and that'll get you into a breakout group after that. This is a great opportunity for face-to-face conversation. I have loved my cell group through this time during COVID. And I spend my entire life in Zoom. I am in this room 10 hours a day on Zoom meetings because half of my team lives in California, so I do it all day long, and I still love cell. And so the breakout groups are much like that. They may be a little different than the Zoom meetings or your work meetings you have a week, so I encourage you to join that. I also want to invite cell leaders to right now, in this moment with all of us, to share a story that you have with your cell. So if you're a cell leader and you want to call in, what we're asking you to do is to put your email address in the chat thread. And so the very first email address we see up there, Johnny's going to reach out to you. He's going to email you, and he's going to let you know how to get into this meeting.
You know, I know all your email addresses, so just put your name on. You don't have to tell
put your name.
whole YouTube your email address. Yeah, I know.
You don't have to tell everybody your email address. Johnny's got it.
We'll get you on. I'm ready to send you the email.
So just put your name up there. And you may have already done it. We got a little delay here. So sorry, I'm now speaking, and that makes no sense to you because you've all seen a name. Because I don't get to see it yet. I can see it in a couple of seconds. And then Johnny's going to lead that person in real time. This part is planned. So we're excited to invite a cell leader to come join us and tell us about what's happening in their cell. Really important, while we're waiting for that cell bit, I want to talk to you about our baptisms. So baptism and thousands-year-long tradition, and Christians have been doing this for millennia. We will have a public confession of faith. And here at Circle of Hope, we had baptisms yesterday, and they were at 3 o'clock, and they were live, and folks joined in the online meeting. And those are very public, so they're also posted on YouTube. And I wasn't able to make it yesterday at 3, but I've watched it since then, and it was really moving. I really loved it. I encourage you, if you haven't gotten a chance to see that, it's on the Circle of Hope YouTube channel. If you go there, you'll be able to see the baptisms from yesterday, and you'll get to experience that joy along with the people who were baptized. I also want to invite you as part of that interweaving to share with the community. The sharing during this time is really important. We're able to use those funds for our mutuality. The links are going to be shared by our hosts in the comment thread. You can find more there through those links if you want to share your resources with the church. We try to have a lot of our resources in common and share them in that way. The next thing that's on here is really fun for me that I want to share with you. We have an event coming up. It's on a Tuesday night, so my cell, we might have to talk about this because I'm really interested in this event. I might do that instead of cell, but it's about getting to know the Bible. And a little while ago, some folks at Circle were reading this book, how the Bible actually works, and I have it through this bookmark. I'm getting my way when I have time to read it. I love it. It's helped me really refresh the Bible for me, and it makes me even more interested in what's coming up for us. On May 12th, on Tuesday, May 12th, from 8 to 9:30, we're going to have a 90-minute Zoom session with 2 of our pastors, and they're going to help us dialogue and think about how we can practice and develop our own understanding and our discipline and how we interact with the Bible. All right, so those are the things that I wanted to make sure to share with you. And Johnny, we've got somebody teed up?
We've got Andrea.
Yes.
Andrea McIntosh is in the house. So tell us about your cell this week. Tell us a story about your cell. I love when this happens. I like when the internet works. So it's exciting to have you.
Hey, everyone. So my cell this week, I was really not feeling cell before it happened. I was laying in bed, I was kind of taking a nap, and I was having a hard mental health day. But I got on and I had kind of a loose plan of what I wanted to do. And it just turned out so beautifully. My cell was just so insightful in what they had to offer, thinking about the earth around us, and what they're experiencing, what they're noticing, what they're seeing. And I left that call feeling so encouraged, and I had energy to stay up later than I normally do. And I just felt the love of God from the people that are around me and that I get to meet with every week just in this platform.
Thanks, Andrea. We really appreciate you jumping in and getting in on this meeting. It's fun to see you in the Hangout and on the YouTube. This is fun, this multiple screen thing. It's fun. It's all live. It's all happening right here together. The last thing that I want to invite you to do as part of the interweaving is on social media. And for those of you who know me, I don't do social media. And so I'm going to do it this week. I'm going to go to Facebook for the first time in, 8 years, I think. I'm going to post something. I'm going to use this hashtag. So I'm going to do it. I want to invite you to do it. It's hashtag something new, and it's at Circle of Hope. And we're looking for that resurrection life, like Brandy's prayer that she invited us to have. We want God to help us to see the resurrection around us. So when you see resurrection around you, when you see something new, we invite you to take a little picture or to write a little chat about it and hashtag something new at Circle of Hope. All right, Julie, back to you.
Thanks, Aubrey. Let's keep this prayer going for the rest of the week. And may you go into your week knowing that Jesus sees you. He sees you in your need, and he's not just demanding that you take a leap. He will come to you and he will help you. So keep with your practice of showing up, of asking, of breathing, of receiving what God's presence with you now, and something will happen. So peace be with you.